Hello, good afternoon. We are on our ALLPROS Blueprint webinar. We are just letting you all come in as participants, so we will be starting very shortly. My name's Silvana Masella. Lovely to have you with us. And I can see those numbers coming in, so keep them coming. And I can see Pierre too. Pierre, good afternoon. Can you hear and see us? Lovely to have you join.
Hello.
Super.
Good
Hello,
afternoon,
Pierre.
Silvana. Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So I think we'll get started as we do have a packed agenda. Welcome to the ALLPROS webinar for the next hour and a half. We will be discussing what you see in front of you, the blueprint on bridging the skills gap in the semiconductor sector. We're thrilled to have a bunch of fantastic speakers and experts in the next hour and a half who are going to delve into some insights in terms of the urgency of addressing the skills gap as its strategic significance for the semiconductor industry. We don't want our European engineers or other technical specialists to leave Europe for overseas. We know we have to steam ahead on tech advancements that require specialized skills in Europe. And we know we have to bridge a huge education gap to improve our knowledge transfer. So with this, together with a skills working group within the ALLPROS coordination and support action, we delivered, and today we published it, this blueprint, and we're going to hear on some of the things and the preliminary recommendations that we have pulled together in a set of speakers from an industry, educational, governmental, and research perspective. Then we're going to finish the agenda with a panel discussion. We also have, we're pleased to have Pierre Chastenay, the head of unit microelectronics and photonics industry at DG Connect, who's going to give us a vision on the future very briefly at the beginning. So thank you, Pierre, for joining us. And then everyone will introduce themselves individually when they'll kick off on their presentations. So housekeeping for us all. We will record the event, so if there's any objection, please speak up now. And we will provide the presentations that you see today on the ALLPROS website. We encourage you to please put any questions in the Q&A, and we love to have the participants online actually introducing themselves in the chat too. We can't get to have all the speakers on, but we do like to think that we're in a room, maybe having a coffee and a tea together. And so we do encourage you to actually just say who you are, where you're from. If you're interested in the topic, because we'd be happy to share any information with you after. And please follow the chat and so you can receive regular updates about ALLPROS going forward. A snapshot, as you can see, of the 7 recommendations that are listed in the blueprint, which, as I said, is published today. And we've managed to put that up onto Zenodo. These have been elaborated in the blueprint, but we did want to just focus on these 7 specifically for the benefit of today's webinar. The blueprint's not too long, but you will find some incredible stories in here. From the different stakeholders that we've mentioned here. We're going to dive into some of them in today's webinar, but it really does give for an interesting read, and we hope to take this forward in practical terms going forward. We'd like to acknowledge the following people, organizations, alliances, and European funded projects who supported the contributions to the blueprint, which is an incredibly difficult task when you're not getting paid for something. I'm not talking about the support from a European project, but individuals who obviously are coming in and writing content for you. It's an incredible feat, and we're really pleased with the final output of this. And to conclude on ALLPROS, if you're not familiar with who we are and what we're doing as a support action, we want to obviously provide visibility to European excellence working around semiconductors And if you are an organization or a project and you want to showcase some of your products or solutions, we invite you to please join the marketplace. Here's a QR code here. And there I'm going to stop there and thank you. And I want you all to enjoy today's webinar. And with that, I'm going to pass you on now to Giorgio Micheletti, who's going to give us a few statistics on where we stand in Europe in terms of our figures in this industry. Over to you, Giorgio. Thank you.
Thank you, Silvana. Can you all hear me? All hear me well? Yeah, good.
Perfect.
So if you could show my slides, that's perfect. Right, so if you go to the next slide, please. Right, so my name is Giorgio Micheletti from IDC. IDC stands for International Data Corporations. We are partner of ALLPROS, and we contributed to this blueprint report, especially in taking care of the first part of the blueprint. If you look at the blueprint, the first part presents you with a series of graphs and figures about the shortage of talent and skills in the semiconductor industry. And of course, what is the then the report continues with corrective actions and a series of examples, but focusing on the numbers. Now we have conducted, and maybe you can go to the next slide, please. So we have conducted, to be short, right, because in fact there are many more slides and figures to present here, but we have conducted last year a quite long survey, actually 2 different surveys across Europe, across the EU 27, and we investigated both the semiconductor manufacturers industry, so those who are actually producing the semiconductors, and the end user, so those who are using the chips. And we asked several questions. The first one, and perhaps the most important one at the very beginning, was, well, has your company experienced some shortage of semiconductors in the last 12 months? And as you can see here, the difference between manufacturing and users is not that big. So those who are replying affirmatively to this question are well above half of the sample that we interviewed. So if we go to the title of this slide and say, well, skill shortage, is this a reality of speculation? Well, that it's a reality for sure. And if we look at the second question, it's just one of the many questions that we asked, is if the company that you represent has already in place some plans to recruit specialized staff. And you can see here that there is a huge difference between the manufacturer sectors and the end users. And as we will see, and as it stands out in the blueprint report, you'll see that there is a huge difference between the manufacturing industry, who is definitely more apt and organized to try to face this this challenge of shortage, and the overall value chain of the semiconductor industry, so meaning those who are using the chips, who are definitely not as well equipped as the manufacturing. If we go to the next slide, again, there are many facts and figures that you can retrieve from the report. I've summarized here some of the key takeaways. As I said, looking starting from the left-hand side, we've seen that the shortage is there, is a reality, is not a perception. The talent pool is clearly smaller than needed, and quite interesting, what we've seen by asking these 2 types of respondents in Europe is that they both fishing from the same pond, as we said. So basically, there is likely a cannibal. How to say that they are competing actually for talent, both sides of the industries. So end users are, as I said, a bit more, let's say, less equipped to face the race for talents, and they are actually relying on the manufacturers. So they're trying to get the resources from the manufacturers. There is a competition in this respect, And most of the end users companies claim not to have dedicated internship at work placements programs in their own organizations. Again, this is a big difference, whereas the manufacturers are a bit more advanced in this respect. I could go on for ages. I'm conscious of time. Perhaps another slide that I wanted to show, if we go to the next one. This is a summary of some of the corrective actions that the industry told us they are willing to do, or they should be willing to do, given the situation. And quite interestingly, these corrective actions are in sync and definitely reflect the 7 recommendations that Silvana was presenting before, and that are summarized in our blueprint. So there's nothing new in a sense, but clearly there is a need to invest more in the visibility and attractiveness to the programs that train the necessary skills to work in the semiconductor industries. There is a need to plan and think ahead. A cultures that empowers and gives power to the staff, getting closer to the higher education. There are several examples in the blueprint report in this respect. Think beyond the technical skills. That's also very important. What the industry told us is that it's not necessary to come from STEM, from the STEM specialization. So you also need to have soft skills and business skills, and then plan your part and exchange with your industry ecosystem. So increase the collaboration between students and universities and the industry. Again, nothing new, but interestingly, that was given out by the industry directly before actually coming to the conclusions that we put down in the report. Finally, in terms of numbers, I also wanted to show you another picture that is quite interesting. It's coming not from IDC directly, but it's coming from our friends of Decision. So they are involved in the METIS project, and they have been conducting studies on quantifying the skills shortage and quantifying the actual gap. That's not super easy to do, to be honest. And you can see the blue line here is the amount of employed professionals in the semiconductor industries. And you can see that in 2023, so basically last year, so essentially now it's already at 340,000 in Europe. But what's interesting is that it's continuing to increase. So it's projected to increase steadily over the next 5 years. But clearly, by increasing so steadily and so sharply, the talent gap becomes wider because we do not have the necessary skills available. So that's the first element or quantification of the problem. So these are just a small hints of what you'll find in the report. And with this small hint, I think I'll give it back to Silvana and to the others distinguished speakers. Thank you.
Giorgio, thank you very much indeed. These statistics and others you will find in the blueprint report, which is out and came out today. I wanted to say to everyone, oh, please do clap and use the emojis on our chat, but I can't find them, so I've had to go in and put them in myself. So please do. If you want to clap anyone, then please do that. With that, thanks again, Giorgio. Over to you, Pierre. Hello again. And I'll just pass you the floor, as I know time is of the essence. Thank you very much. We'd love to obviously hear what's coming in from the policy perspective. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Silvana, and good afternoon to everyone. Probably most of you won't know me because I've started in the microelectronics and photonics unit relatively recently. I transferred on the 1st of March to take the responsibility for this unit. So thank you for ALLPROS to welcome me to today's meeting. The skills is a very important aspect. The very first day I was in the unit, I had the chance to attend an event organized by SEMI, and among the top topic that we're mobilizing both the public and the private stakeholder, skills was on every lips. And I've rarely seen such a worry from an established industrial constituency on the potential gap in terms of having the resources that it needs to deliver on its industrial agenda. So I cannot stress enough, and you're all more aware than me about the importance of talents for the EU semiconductor sector. It's something that we have tried to address significantly in the European Chips Act. So address the shortage of skilled people, the need to attract new talent in this sector, and at a very early stage of the curriculum, but also be able to train or retrain people that are more experienced and that are coming from other connected sector, and finally support the emergence of a skilled workforce. So again, vocational training, it's something really important to transfer skills, technologies, and people to the semiconductor sector. So we're very appreciative of the work that ALLPROS has done, and the thematic working group on skill for especially the blueprint document. I think it's a very comprehensive document. It provides a lot of data, case studies, best practices, also some strategic approaches on how we have to address the challenge I've just described. And also you're proposing a number of very concrete recommendations. You showed them on screen, Silvana. I'll come back to this in a minute. So the blueprint should really be the base to start, should really be a starting point for future concrete activities. We also appreciate that it's really a diversity of organizations that have contributed to this blueprint. So industry, trade associations, networks, academia. So we very much appreciate that this blueprint report is multifaceted, so represent the views from a very broad set of stakeholders involved in developing the skill agenda for semiconductor. So the 7 concrete action that the thematic working group has proposed seems very relevant, very important to us. I think the first one, on which you call for a better coordination of effort and to have like a umbrella organization. I'll come back to this in a minute, but we think that the European Alliance for Semiconductor could be a very vehicle for this. This could be a way to have this European place where we can coordinate effort at European level, but also coordinate with our international partners. We have seen this very clearly in our international cooperation, that in the US, in Japan, Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, Canada, all our like-minded countries do have the same problem as we have in Europe. You're making a number of other proposals. I'm not going to go in through one by one, but they offer very good track for concrete action that we have to follow through, and they could be pragmatically implemented via the different program that we have in place, but also through the alliance. So I cannot appreciate enough the patience that ALLPROS has demonstrated in addressing the blockage that we have been facing on the launch of the European Alliance on semiconductor. I mean, you were initially geared towards supporting us in the implementation of this alliance because of political blockage. It took much longer than expected to be able to launch this. It seems that the stars are more aligned now to proceed with the launch. It comes a bit late. We have to undust quite a bit of the files there to get back to applications that were submitted 2 years ago, to respond to organizations that are asking us, did I submit an application or didn't I? I can't recall. Well, we have to do a lot of undusting. Sorry for this, but I think we're pretty close to effectively proceeding with the launch of the actual activities of the first working group of the alliance. Let me highlight quickly what will be our priority for this industrial alliance. Skills will definitely be one of the working group that we want to launch in the first place for this alliance. PFAS, so these ethanol chemicals for semiconductor will be another of our top priority, and supply chain will be a third priority. There may be future ones that we launch in due course, for instance, on standards, on automotive, but we have to be pragmatic. Let's start small and we will grow the alliance in due course. So we'll focus on these first 3 thematic priorities. We will start with the work of the working group. So don't expect a plenary of any sort to start with. Let's start with substance, and all organization of goodwill will be able to contribute to the working group where they want to commit concrete resources. I cannot emphasize enough that we don't want observers and listeners in the group. We want people who contribute. There are too many commentators, too many spectators, not enough workers. So this has to apply for those working group of the alliance. We will work with ALLPROS to organize a general assembly that could take place in the autumn, but we will have to refine the plan and communicate these to all members in due course. So with this, I cannot stress enough about the European Commission commitment on skills. We do sense that there are a lot of initiatives going on, and I think you have rightfully identified this in the blueprint, is that there is so much goodwill that initiatives are getting a bit scattered across. And the alliance, but also a support action like ALLPROS can be a very good way to start making things converge, that there is a clear mapping of the different activities to create synergies between these different activities, but also that people know where to go to when they need something specific. I want to train Indian people that are coming to work in the Netherlands. How do I make this happen? I want to attract women in the semiconductor curriculum at university level. Where do I go to do this? We have to be very pragmatic in our approach there. So I don't want to derail your agenda, so I will stop here. I won't be able to stay longer because I have another commitment at 4. But my colleague Stefano Selri is going to stay with you. He's representing the European Commission on all aspects of semiconductor skills, and I cannot thank him enough for the work that he has been doing for the past years on driving the semiconductor skills agenda in Europe. So with this, I'm wishing you a very successful workshop, and looking forward to pursue the cooperation with you, and hopefully under the umbrella of the Alliance. Thank you.
Perfect. Pierre, I think those were very important messages that hit home. You know, coming from you is obviously different than coming from a project. And I think it's important to our listeners and the participants here, knowing exactly what the trajectory is going to be in the coming weeks and months. It's very clear. And I think we're on a good path to make this happen. And the term concrete, the term commitment, the term contributors and not spectators, like you said, and having that in the blueprint was obviously evidence that this has to be the case. No one cares about, you know, people sitting being passengers. That won't get anyone anywhere. So the presentations we're going to hear from now on are actual practical cases. So we thank you, Pierre, for your time with us. And with that, we'll come along and go further onto the agenda. Thank you very much again. So with that, I'm going to pass the floor to Bernie Capraro. Bernie, why don't you already set up and put your slides on? Who's going to give us the industry perspective and industrial-led initiatives. The floor is yours, Bernie. Thank you so much also for your contributions to the blueprint. Thank you.
Thanks, Silvana. And thanks, everyone. Apologies, I'm not feeling too well at the moment, so I'm going to stay off camera. I apologize for that. You're not going to get to see my lovely face today.
No worries, Bernie. Thank you.
But as long as you can hear me, that's the important thing, and you can see my slides. So
we can, both loud and clear.
Good. Okay, so Bernie Capraro is the name. With Intel, actually 27 years this week, but started my career in the industry in Germany in 1987. I've worked as an engineer, a researcher, a research manager, and now the group I'm in for the last couple of years is Intel Labs. It's a corporate group, and there's one aspect of that group in Intel Labs called Corporate University Research that focuses its attention on semiconductor talent development. And you can see in the graphic here the kind of things that we would be engaged in. Curriculum development, experiential learning, all this kind of stuff, novel research as well, to ensure that we develop a really good, enthused, talented, passionate semiconductor workforce at all levels. And I stress at the all levels, because we're a manufacturing organization. People often forget that, you know, 2/3 of that factory are technicians, the most important people on the factory floor, the ones that actually get the wafers through the factory in a quality fashion. So we must focus a lot of attention on technicians, not just on our engineers and researchers. We have an increased focus on diversity. You know, typically now at Intel in the engineering ranks, we have about 25% female. Not enough. We need it to be 50. And in the technician ranks, it's less than 10%. And for our new factories that we're currently busy trying to build across the world, both in America and Europe in particular, our goal is to try and get to 50% across all technical jobs, which is a big goal. We have, and we do, strengthen the collaboration we have with our universities and technical training schools. And we also try to get them to collaborate with each other as well. So, for example, if we help develop a curricula, we would ask that that goes into the public domain so that any school across the world can share that curricula, which makes sense, doesn't it? To solve this problem, which is effectively global. So here we go. I'm going to give you an example of something that we did in Ireland. We started this in 2015. Now, Intel Ireland has been on the go for over 35 years. We now have 6 fabs operating in Ireland. And we had a lot of interaction with the universities in the region, but it wasn't coordinated. You know, you'd find that Bernie would go in on a Monday and say X, and someone else would go in on a Tuesday and say Y, and that was just confusing, right? So we decided that we would do a better job of trying to make this a more cohesive and joined up program. So in 2015, we started what we called our MOU, Memorandum of Understanding program, where we officially signed, you know, documents that say we would work together to, you know, do everything possible to develop the talent pipeline. And we looked at the universities that were closest to our talent pipeline across Ireland. We have 2 locations in Ireland, the main one being Leixlip near Dublin. And we also have a networking group in Limerick. So the University of Limerick was also included. And over the course of a number of years, we developed these agreements, and we noticed that our activities could roughly be bucketed into 3 different topics: talent pipeline, research, and strategy and policy. So in the talent pipeline, you'd get to see what you'd expect to see. You know, we'd develop course curricula, we'd provide experiential learning, maybe we'd upgrade labs that were of relevance. You know, we'd also make sure that faculty were well informed about our needs going forward, so they could develop things themselves as well. Had a lot of student contact, all the way, as I said, from technicians all the way through to PhDs. A number of scholarship programs. The important thing there, though, is you must always have a mentor, not just give them the money, but connect them into the operation. A certain number of internships in some groups. That's obviously a really good way of developing a good linkage. We find that roughly 75% of interns stay with the company for full-time employment after they finish their studies. And then we developed a number of projects and competitions at all levels as well. Now, just to highlight kind of the triple helix here, the Irish government actually announced in 2019 the Human Capital Initiative, which was aimed at you know, upskilling and reskilling for future industries, and really working with industry really to ensure that both workers in the workplace already, but also students coming through, got the right skills in order to keep up with industry. And that's been running successfully since 2020. There's been a number of different calls running there, but that is showing, you know, where we have, you know, in the talent development space, money from government that has been used in a wise way, an efficient way. The research was, you know, my job initially as a research manager. We had a number of different research things going on, both in Europe, but also in Ireland, in a couple of these universities that you see in this program. And I guess the key thing to note here, where we were somewhat different to what you normally see, is we actually put researchers in residence in those universities. So they were actually working with the principal investigators, the postdocs, the PhD students in the labs. And in fact, that photograph are 2 Intel researchers working in Trinity College, Dublin. They not only move the work forward, but they also act as ambassadors. And what you find then is, you know, along the way, the numbers of PhDs and postdocs that we work with, we've actually hired a lot of them, both into our Ireland and into our US operations, which is great. So research, although you can't just like turn research on, it has to grow naturally. The way Intel works with universities across the world, it has to be unique and world-class. So you can't just walk into a university and start a research project. It's you know, it's like a call in the European Union. It has to be well earned. It takes time to evolve. But once it's up and running, and research typically does go well when you have a large manufacturing operation, it will naturally evolve. You can actually get a good spin-off of talent from that as well. And then lastly, our strategy and policy, you know, leveraging our corporate social responsibility mandate. What can we do with universities and colleges there as well to drive things such as, you know, the diversity and inclusion aspects, sustainability, and all sorts of other things. And we've done a number of really good examples of engagement there. And what I'm going to show in a minute is in particular one I like about teachers. So let me move onto that. I think it's really important to know that, you know, in terms of influences of young people and students today, mums and dads, obviously, but also teachers. You know, the teachers play a very important part in directing students towards their careers, the career goals and aspirations. And if the teachers aren't aware of what's going on in industry today, then that falls over. And I've actually witnessed that. You know, I've been at school meetings for my 2 daughters and listened to what we would call a careers teacher talk about things and be sat there at the back of the room cringing, wishing I could stand up and correct them. So, you know, one thing we did with Dublin City University a few years ago was start a pilot called the STINT, the STEM Teacher Internship. And this would be where we would give an opportunity to the would-be STEM teachers of the future, an opportunity to go and work in a place like Intel, Microsoft, and others for 12 weeks paid in their final summer vacation before they go and finish their degree and then ultimately go into the school. So I'm going to try and play a little bit of this video. I won't play it all, but there's a couple of things I'd like you to listen to.
Deirdre, when we met back with Paula Neary from Accenture and Breed Horan from the 30% Club, what were we thinking about we needed to change in our teacher education programmes?
We both articulated that our students were maybe great at the book stuff, and maybe they'd gone from school to college and they were going to go back to school. But what we were afraid of was, how do we actually get them to understand the real world?
Yeah, for me it was important, it was immersive, that they went in and worked as part of teams and actually understood what it is to solve problems that are real problems in industry that cost multi-million dollars. Bernie, you've been a strong advocate of the STENT programme in DCU for a number of years now. What do you see as the key benefits of this programme?
Well, Ailish, we love this programme. As the world continues to evolve, involving more and more technology, what we need to do is to be able to excite and enthuse our future workforce. And one method of doing that is by having more and more of the teachers informed as to what work in a modern place looks like today. So I think what we need to do now is to work together with this programme, grow it as much as we can, try to find a wider pool of industry participants right across the country and across the spectrum of all industries, all of which to some extent will be employing STEM graduates for some aspects of the business. And imagine the impact that could have, you know, on our school children and on the future generation of workers. It'd be amazing, wouldn't it? You know, on our...
Just one final bit.
I think that was one thing that surprised me.
We've had a very positive experience, I can say, to begin with. You know, there was a confidence there that you wouldn't necessarily see with young people at the beginning of their careers.
Even though I was a new teacher and I might have had less experience than other teachers that I was working with, I still had something else that I could put forward, and that gave me huge confidence when I was in the school, whereas I wouldn't have had that confidence without doing the stint.
Deirdre, I'm really passionate about.
Okay. So you can see there, you know, that's a programme that now we've managed to get north, south, east and west of Ireland. We've got 7 universities now involved there, about 25 multinational companies and some small medium enterprises taking in these undergraduates. And it's beginning now to have an impact, I think, on the school teaching and that's going on. They're also having an impact on the teachers that are already in the school as well, you know, bringing in new ideas. So that's worth a look at, and you can find that in the blueprint as well. And then just one more example, if I can.
About the STINT programme and what it offers to our teachers here in DC.
Having that. So in terms of technicians, we worked with a company called Fast Track to IT, FIT, to put together 2 courses, one in electronics and one in pneumatics, which would be very relevant to our manufacturing technicians on the floor. And this was aimed at people that were losing jobs in other industries, and people that were returning to work and not necessarily already having a technical background. So 1-year course, 48 weeks in total, no vacation. So the kind of people that you actually see applying for this are really driven anyway. But it's a very hands-on thing as well. So 36 weeks in the classroom and labs, and then 12 weeks work experience in companies such as Intel. And one thing that we also did with this as well to drive the diversity was to, if I can get this to work, was to put this out to all girls. What we'd see is we have 16 slots on this course. It would start 3 times every year. And we'd get 1 or 2 girls, and typically the girls would drop out within the first 36 weeks. So we sat down and looked at that and said, well, why don't we try it for all the girls? You can see this took place in the during the pandemic. And we had over 150 applicants for 16 slots. And just to tell you that those 16 girls all now work for Intel. They went through their 12-week work experience. They all had interviews. They were all successful, and they all work at Intel, and they're absolutely enjoying it, as you can see from that little statement there at the end. And
Thank
then
you,
just
Bernie.
lastly,
Lovely.
just to finish off, yeah. So we're not just confined to Ireland, as I said. Every place where we have operations, we get involved in this way. So I've been busy the last 2 years working across Saxony-Anhalt with the 6 universities there, and two vocational schools as well, because we're going to start a pilot apprenticeship program in September. So you can see from the press cuttings and the photographs, I have 3 student scholars from one of those universities starting an internship with us in September over in Ireland, which is great. I'm really looking forward to welcoming them over. But again, we've been putting in experiential learning activities, and the big one being in Otavangarica University there, where you can see the rector sat at a new microscope in the reinstated clean room that we got up and running again. So I'm happy to say things are started well. I'm also working now in Poland as well, building upon what we already have there with our Gdansk operation, but also looking forward to our Wrocław assembly test. So at that, Silvana, I'll leave it, and hopefully that's just given an idea of the kind of things that we do at Intel.
It has. That's fantastic. The video is great as well. Your presentation's always spot on, and then you're always a doer, Bernie, and you're ill. So, special thanks for you taking the time to come onto the webinar. And a lot of the contributions are in the blueprint, which is super. Moving swiftly on. Thank you. Clapping hands. Thank you again, Bernie. Next up, we have Siddhish Krishnan, Education Lead EIT Digital. I leave you the floor. Thank you.
Hi, Silvana. Thank you so much. Before I start, just a quick check. Are you able to hear me and see my slides?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great.
They're perfect.
Great. Thank you, Silvana, for the opportunity, and it's great to meet all of you here. My name is Siddesh, and I work at EIT Digital as the education lead. EIT Digital is one of the knowledge innovation communities of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. I work as the education lead, focusing on lifelong training programs. I also bring in my previous experience of working in learning and development, and super passionate about education. I just believe that education is really the gateway to create more engagement and support, regardless of any industry that you're in. And I believe that the semiconductor industry can also use more education and training to really leverage this interest and bridge most of the gaps that we're witnessing today. In today's presentation, I would love to share with you some relevant examples of education and industry partnerships that we can learn from, and also take it with us in our future as well. Before I kick off, I just wanted to mention about the Chips for Europe initiative. A central focus for the Chips for Europe initiative is the reinforcement of skills within the semiconductor industry. It involves enhancing the visibility and attractiveness of the sector, as well as strengthening the development of higher education and vocational training networks, specifically geared towards the semiconductor domain. The initiative places a strong emphasis on fostering educational collaboration between universities and industry partners. And of course, this is crucial because at the end of the day, we want our training programs to be relevant and practical to the learners that we are gearing them towards as well. Moving ahead, I wanted to share a couple of examples. We know that academia is crucial to address the skills gap in the semiconductor industry. The field of training and education is evolving with new methodologies and technologies to innovate training design and delivery. This is where academia can really step in, continue, and leverage partnerships across universities, schools, and industry. Education curricula should be updated and provide innovative content focusing on real-world skills. We have lifelong learning, but right now it's no longer just a concept, but it is a necessity, not just in terms of universities, but it also well continues into our working life as well, and thus thereby increasing the importance of on-the-job training and learning opportunities as well. Some couple of examples that I want to bring to your attention over here. Back in 2021, NXP solidified its collaboration with a university in Netherlands, the TU Eindhoven, through a memorandum of understanding. This agreement builds upon a partnership characterized by collaboration, including part-time professorships, sponsorships of PhDs, joint research projects, and internships for students. While the Memorandum of Understanding initiated in 2019, focusing on AI and the perception technology in mobility, which led to the establishment of the EAI-SI Mobility ICAI Lab. This lab serves as a platform for further expanding the partnership, with recent agreements facilitating the addition of 8 new PhD students, indicating significant growth in the joint lab's activities as well. Another example that I want to share with all of you is the Silicon Saxony. It's putting resources to create STEM teaching materials for schools. It connects industry professionals with schools to deliver curricular and extracurricular teaching material. The project provides teaching material as a class set, introducing primary school children from 3rd grade onward to programming in a playful way. And obviously that creates more engagement to this audience as well. German schools can pay dedicated volunteers from the membership and apply for funding to purchase materials such as a class set of Calliope Mini, which is part of the project. The project aims to facilitate STEM offerings for interested children at 100 elementary schools within the next 2 years. Another example that I wanted to bring forth is the Greens Chip Edu project, which is being enacted by a consortium of 15 partners. This project aims to address the skills needs in the microelectronics industry, particularly focusing on green chips and applications. There are a couple of modalities used here through MOOCs, which is the massive open online courses. We have short courses, micro-credentials, and a modular program on green electronics. The Green Chips Edu project also proposes novel bachelor's, master's, and MBA programs designed by its university industry research partnership towards the microelectronics industry, the need for addressing the green chips and its applications as well. I also wanted to highlight a very relevant program for the purpose of this webinar, which is by the EIT Digital Masters Program. In general, the EIT Digital offers 8 master's programs across 9 countries, giving a dual degree program in partnership with reputed universities across Europe with the EIT certificate as well. Students get to experience 2 years in 2 different countries in 2 different universities as well. The master's program is also complemented by a minor on innovation and entrepreneurship, which comprises of 30 European credits. Specifically on this slide, we see the example of RESHIP for EU. This is a EU-funded project which launched in June 2024. So we are exactly at the starting phase of this project, and we expect to enroll students in September 2025. This project is going to give an appropriate focus to chip design. The proposed education program addresses labor market needs and will contribute to specialist semiconductor training by offering learning modules that reduce the digital skills gap and improve the talent supply for digital roles, taking into consideration obviously relevant new developments and trends regarding the semiconductor technology. The master's program will be designed and delivered by 9 higher education institutions from 5 different countries, together with the collaboration of Semi.org, ST Microelectronics, JA Europe, and we as EIT Digital will be coordinating the deployment of this program as well. The project will offer also self-standing learning modules during these 3 cycles. Therefore, we will be also opening up the possibility for more people to enroll into this program, such as professionals or other people looking to break into the semiconductor industry as well. I wanted to highlight some other projects that EIT Digital is working on. We do have Spectro and EMAI for AU, not exactly in the semiconductor, but definitely in the STEM fields, which is a critical area for focus, where we focus on cybersecurity, robotics, and also on emotion, and also on AI with a specialization on emotion AI. I wanted to give a I wanted to open up the floor. If you would like to reach out to us, we have a website over here. I will drop in my email in the chat box, so feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to triage any of your requests to my colleagues. We have a team working here. I am just the face over here. However, there is a team that's doing a lot of interesting and exciting work over here. And with that, I'll share the floor back to Silvana. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Siddhish. Very interesting insights, lots going on. And I'm going to refer back to, and whilst I'm speaking, can I also have Christopher Frieding, from Director Advocacy Public Policy at Semi Europe, put out your slides? Thank you very much, Christopher. Very good presentation. Going back to what Pierre said this morning, how, you know, there are lots of different things, going back to our recommendation number 1, where we're talking about an umbrella organization. You know, it'd be great to have everyone knowing exactly what's going on. You know, you already mentioned some initiatives that you're involved with, Siddhish, but, you know, we agree that the time has come that everything needs to be sort of underneath one umbrella, and people don't criticize the fact that there are siloed efforts going on here, there and everywhere, but that everyone's on the same page, and hopefully, you know, the blueprint with the best practices and the recommendations will help perhaps solidify that network even more. With that, thanks once again, Siddhish. Over to you, Christopher. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon. Do you hear me? Do you see me? Do you see my slides?
All 3, perfect.
Thank you, Silvana. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, also from my side, my name is Christopher. I work for SEMI. SEMI is a global industry association representing the semiconductor sector. We represent over 3,000 companies worldwide. And in Europe, we operate under the umbrella of SEMI Europe. And I will start with echoing a little bit what Silvana just said. I put on the first slide the currently running or about to close European projects on skills, specifically for semiconductors. Some projects were mentioned before. These 5 here are the projects that we as SEMI are directly involved in. I will show on the next slide a few more. I will focus my presentation on our flagship project, the European Chips Skills Academy, and a few examples and first results. But I think the key message, in the view of time, I will keep to key messages after every few slides, is that there are a lot of projects going on. Some focusing more on education, others maybe on diversity, but I think there's a lot of overlap in terms of what the project's trying to achieve, and which is not a bad thing, but I think I just want to highlight again also, I think the need for collaboration and some coordination that these projects and others work together. And that brings me to the European Chip Skills Academy. Like I said, this is our flagship project that we are coordinating in the area of semiconductor skills. This is a 4-year project which is aiming at connecting the ecosystem. We want to launch a few initiatives that inspire the sector to be taken up and continued after the lifetime of the project. And we want to provide tools for the sector as a whole to be able to better tackle the talent gap. And here you see the partners. You see it's a spectrum from universities, research, and academia, but we also have, for instance, the Platform for Talent from the Netherlands, STEM, who's chairing the European STEM Coalition in this project. So we cover, or try to cover as much as possible, the spectrum of semiconductor skills. And what are we trying to achieve in this project? We have 4, I would say, key areas that we want to deliver. First, we want to build the Semiconductor Academy, Chip Skills Academy. This will be multiple actions like summer schools, training courses, a student forum, and I will show you just a very few examples of those that we've already rolled out in the first month. We are about to launch a e-learning platform, and we want to build a network, and that's especially also where in the future we would like to engage a lot with all the other projects and initiatives to work together on some of these things. And Last but not least, we want to underpin this with skills intelligence. So, and Giorgio already showed at the beginning the preliminary results that we are of the study that we're trying to undertake in this project on the talent gap. And I'll start with that. And here, just to show you a brief example, something that Decision, our, let's say, intelligence partner in this project, has been doing is tracking the main employers in the semiconductor sector in Europe. And here you see the top 25. So they track around 100 companies to forecast the talent need. And the study we're undertaking will then actually look at the gap as well. So these results are due to be published in October. You see here the first preliminary results with a forecast of around 450,000 people that will be needed in the sector by 2030. And like I said, the goal of the study is also to analyze the talent gap, so to see how many people will we be short of, and that should be broken down by the different categories of engineers, software developers, data specialists, but not to forget technicians, as those are associated with different degrees or different levels of education. And this we will complement, and here I show you results from the predecessor project METIS with more in-depth analysis about the different job profiles and the skills that are required for these job profiles. And for this, we're currently also running a survey. And here, another key message, I would very much encourage you to take part in the survey, which is still open until the end of June. This will feed into the qualitative analysis and help us identify the needs of the semiconductor sector in terms of skills and the different profiles. With that, I come to, let's say, some examples of the activities that we have already started under the Chip Skills Academy project. Concretely, so we are launching our first European-wide summer school in August. So this will be an opportunity for 40 students from across Europe to learn about the sector, job opportunities, different technical topics, and really experience what the semiconductor sector has to offer. Again, this is one of these examples where we want to inspire and where we want to, provide concrete activities that can be picked up elsewhere and that can be repeated across Europe. We had very good responses here. Over 200 students applied, and we had to choose 40. We also organized the first European Chip Skills Academy Student Forum. This was an event at TU Delft, aimed at students, again, trying to show them what they can do and what careers they can have in the semiconductor sector. I think something was quite special about this event was that this was co-organized by students, and it was very interactive, also trying to understand what student motivates or what students find complicated when it comes to the semiconductor sector. So it's also giving us some good reflection for future activities in the project. From both the summer school and from the student forum, we also launched the student ambassador program, where we have now more than 20 students that will engage in the project and are now actually starting to work on their own mini projects alongside to help reach out to other students and to engage young people in the project. And then last but not least, we are about to launch the e-learning platform, where we will take on many of the courses that have already been developed under METIS, and we will offer this platform as a central hub. We're trying to get as many other course providers to at least link their courses through this platform, universities, companies, etc. So there will be one central e-learning platform where you can find a huge amount of courses in the area of microelectronics. Last but not least, we are have launched what we call the European Chip Skills Alliance. So this is the way that we want to engage with companies, universities, bed providers, research organizations that are not directly part of the project, but this is where we would like to create a network for microelectronics education. And we've started to launch a first working group, which we call the Skills Observatory. This is basically giving us feedback for the study and the report that will be published in October. And here it's still September, actually it's delayed by 1 month. Then we are about to start what we call the Educational Leaders Group. So here we especially focus on universities, where we want to bring some of the results that we also had from other projects in terms of what are the needs of the industry that for university curricula to the universities, so we can see hopefully some of the uptake of these results in future curricula. But we also want to foster collaboration between universities and industry as a whole. Then we have an e-learning working group. This will be a working group that we will use to engage other course providers, companies that could provide courses through the platform, but also that will help us to improve the functionalities of the platform as such. And with that, I'll come to the end.
Thanks, Christopher.
Just again, to takeaways, please take part in the monitoring survey, and please, if you haven't done so, join the Alliance. And here you can find the project and how to get in touch.
Lovely. Thank you, Christopher. Do make sure you use the chat if you want to add any other comments about the presentation. Christopher will be joining us also in the panel in a short while. And I think some of the things you mentioned also is a good way. I'm sure there are things in the blueprint that can support also your meeting for the 24th of June too. So maybe we can take that offline, but that's great. Thank you also to Semi Europe who have contributed to the blueprint. And I'm now going to move on to Kai Kort, who's a project manager from Education Estonia, where we have a successful government strategy for technology skills development with ProgeTiger. Over to you, Kai. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, so I will be representing the governmental view of things. So I plan to tell you what strategies and what programs our government has implemented to improve the technology education in Estonia, because I believe there are some things that other countries could also implement what we have implemented already. Next slide, please. Maybe just to give you a quick overview that Estonia is a very tech-savvy country. We can say that almost all our public services are available online. So we file our taxes online, we vote online, you can get your prescriptions online. And in order to survive in this very tech-savvy society, you have to be quite tech-savvy person as well. That is why we start very early, already in the kindergartens. But why our country is so digitally developed, it has a reason. The next slide, please. Yes, this all started with the Tiger Leap program in 1996. This was just the time when Estonia regained its independence. We were a very poor country, and it was a very deliberate decision that Estonia should be the front runner in terms of digitalization. So in this program, it was decided that Estonian schools should have internet connection, they should have computers, and the third component was teacher training. Because it's not enough if you just give the tools, you also have to train the teachers how to use the technology for educational purposes. In Estonia in 2001, all schools were connected with internet and provided with computers. So this was the basis. So sometimes when people ask, how do you get your teachers to train or learn about technology? In Estonia, it has been happening for a while already. In 2012, we started with 2 flagship programs. One was ProgeTiger, which aims to promote digital education from very early on in the kindergartens already. And the second one was IT Academy, which then focuses more on higher education and also in vocational education. Both of those programs are very popular and still actively operating. But now we just have additional programs. For example, IT Academy also has an engineering academy, because we have been discussing that Europe is really struggling to have enough engineers. So we have a special program now that emphasizes on that. And also, today you also mentioned girls in technology, and this has been a problem in Estonia as well. That is why actually a private entity in 2018 started a technology club only for girls. It is called a Unicorn Squad, and it is very, very successful. Now more than 220 groups have been participating, more than 3,000 girls, and it is a very, very successful program. Next slide, please. A little bit more about the IT Academy, because here they were tackling the problem that we don't have enough IT personnel. That's why different stakeholders came together, the state, ICT companies, universities, and vocational schools, and they started creating curriculums, because it doesn't matter if you're a composer or a doctor, but everyone in today's world needs some kind of digital competences. And next one, please. I don't know if you read the news, but in 2012, the news skyrocketed that all the children in Estonian kindergartens are coding. Did you happen to read that? Well, I must tell you, in 2012, it wasn't the truth, but now we can really say that about 99% of our kindergartens have been participating in the ProgeTiger program. We only have 2 personnel working with ProgeTiger program. How is it possible that they reach all the kindergartens in Estonia? We have more than 500 kindergartens, so that's also quite a lot for 2 people. But in reality, it is a network. So for example, if you wanted to have tools in your kindergarten, let's say those Lego robots, you had to write it to the ProgeTigers and explain. I would like to use those robots with my 6-year-olds in this way. So you got funding, but in return, you had to share your lesson plans. So those lesson plans were shared among other ProgeTiger teachers. And this is very, very important material, because if you don't know what to do with those tools, at least you have those lessons plans that help you to go over this first obstacle. Now it is more operating on its own already. The idea is to boost logical thinking, problem solving, creativity, because we really believe that programming is something that teaches the children how to think. They have to think so that the machine can understand them. And also they have to have tasks that the bigger tasks, they have to take into smaller small pieces, and then they have to come up with solutions. Next one, please. And here are a few focus areas that the ProgeTiger focuses. Of course, it's ICT, digital communication, and computer skills. The second focus area is design and technology, everything connected with drawing, graphics, multimedia, animations, and also engineering sciences like programming and robotics and electronics. But the idea really is to make sure that the children understand how the technology works, that they would be the ones who create, and they would learn how to collaborate on the things. And also the idea is that they would have this algorithmic thinking. It's not, they're actually in the kindergartens, they are not facing the screens, but rather they are given tasks to see, if you do that, then this will happen. So it's a very childlike way. They learn through play, they learn through hands-on methods, they learn outdoors and indoors, they learn with robots and without robots. So the idea is just that you understand how technology works. Next one, please. And here is how the ProgeTigers will support the kindergartens and schools. Of course, they will help them with the curriculum development, with the learning materials that the teachers themselves create. They also offer teacher trainings. They have their networking events. They are also offering mentors from the ProgeTiger program. There are very popular student events happening because this also raises more curiosity. And also they support that this purchase of technology, which unfortunately now ended with the new program. But as said, the idea is that later the students wouldn't be consumers, but would be creators. Next one, please. And here you can see that this approach, how to support the teachers, is very systematic. You have to have this systematic approach that you will give the tools, but you also have to train the teachers. You have to share the materials that is very useful for them. The students is something that builds a community, those events that they will have, and also these networking opportunities. Next one, please. Yeah, unfortunately now the funding period for the tools has been cut. However, they will start with they will continue with the trainings, with the mentoring. The new thing that they will have is that they are also trying to target more the girls to make sure that the girls also enter the technology subjects. They are renewing the informatics curriculum, and one more thing added there is a curriculum for SEN students, because also the students who need some kind of special help should be able to work on technological aspects. And next one. And here is maybe the recipe from the ProgeTigers, how to bring children to the technology. We really very strongly believe that you have to start very early, because children play, they learn very playfully. They enjoy learning. They enjoy solving problems and making those tasks with joy. So they sometimes don't even realize that they are studying. So having this positive attitude is very important. So we really believe that you have to inspire them as soon as possible. So then you also have to find the very enthusiastic people who start with the new approaches of teaching and learning, and of course networking, making sure those very enthusiastic people will meet each other, because we really believe that the passion for technology is something highly contagious, at least in Estonia. And also, as you saw on the graph, the activities must be interconnected and support each other, so they would work as whole. Next one, please. And yeah, this is really the quote from the ProgeTigers. Inspire them as soon, better sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kai. It's an absolute delight to hear that this has happened, and what a success in this country. And when you look at the blueprint, this is described in more detail. So Nicola has put the link into the publication in the chat. So please do take a look at that and read the details of ProgeTiger. Thank you so much. I'm going to share again my screen from the recommendations. Let's just put them in this mode. Can you see them? And I'd like to invite, together with Christopher and Kai, to the panel discussion now for the final part of our webinar. I want to invite Beatrice Boots, founder of the EU STEM Coalition, director of PTBT. Thank you very much for joining us. And Alfred Kirsch, professor at Munich University of Applied Sciences. Whilst we are going into this panel discussion, can I also ask my speakers, there are some questions in the chat, so I will, once you have a couple of minutes and you're not talking, see if you can try perhaps to answer them. And if you can't, then we'll be happy to pick that up and direct those questions to the dedicated people we think who can answer them if we're unable to do it before the end today. So our recommendations are up. We went through them at the beginning, as you remember. I'm going to give the floor to Beatrice, if I may, because we wanted her to give us some of her insights on the recommendation 2, which was to create joint coordinated awareness campaigns with relevant stakeholders around the skills gap in Europe, and also some comments whilst we're here on the recommendation 7 in terms of facilitating international cooperation and student exchange programs. So Beatrice, thank you also for your support on our skills thematic working group. You're always, with your colleagues, very active and supportive. So over to you, Beatrice. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you. You will hear me? Yeah. Okay, great.
Loud and clear, yeah.
Yes. Let me I point out a few recommendations. And first of all, I'm presenting 42 members of all kinds of European countries and regions and partners. So a lot of countries in Europe have a STEM platform and also a STEM policy. And often this is a triple helix approach where companies, education partners, and the government, regional, nationally, are involved together to make a STEM strategy. So we have a coherent approach in our region or in our country. And I'm running the STEM platform in the Netherlands, but my colleagues are also from Denmark or the Basque country or some Bundesländer in Germany, since they're much more federal organized. So on our behalf, I would say, I think I've heard a lot of interesting things, and I think we can agree that we don't lack the number of projects going on. I think most of the presentations point that out, that there's a lot going on, very interesting things like summer camps or other kinds of activities where schools and companies are involved to involve children. And so that's very good. We have a lot of that. And to get this more sustainable, we think it's very good to have a policy. And for instance, for quite recently, 2 weeks ago, actually, Germany and France proposed in a position paper that we need a European tech deal. Well, you could say it's also something like the CHIPS Act. We want to have focus in Europe on the things that are important, and we want to make sure that we work together on it. And luckily there is a lot, but I think it always helps to have a sort of horizon far away from us to see where we're going and then focus on how to get there. And these activities are important, but the long-term run is also important because often these are very short-term programs and activities. And the good ones we have to identify. And I think also here in your blueprint, you've tried that. And I think we have made together a lot of good things. And let's take those good things and scale them up. I think it's very important. And together also work on the awareness and the campaigns, what we have written a recommendation to, that this awareness should be a lot broader, because in the end, children are also at home with parents and they see things everywhere. So if we want to have children understanding the meaning, for instance, of chips, we should also make sure that a broader public in Europe is aware of what it's for, what it's about, because it's not the only time in a summer camp is 1, maybe 2 weeks a year. And it's relevant that we do that more often. And I think if it comes to the student exchange, which is more in the number 7, to facilitate international cooperation, sometimes these exchanges are long or very short. I think we have to look at more flexible programs there. So it's easier to have students and teachers in program. I think we should also focus on teachers here, because it's now very focused on the students. But if we focus on teachers as well, we get a lot better implementation in the educational system. So that is something I would like to campaign for as well. And then let me have one more thing to add. Here in the Netherlands, of course, we have a large company, ASML and NXP. I saw them in the chat as well. And we've just launched a very big national program, which is called Beethoven, because this is all happening in Brainport area. And there we have Eindhoven and Veldhoven. So they came up with the name Beethoven. And we're going to invest 1.5 billion in the semiconductor industry in the Netherlands alone. And I think looking at what is happening at national level, together with what's happening at European level, that should come together. And therefore, the partners in the EU STEM Coalition know often quite well what's going on in their country. So for us in the Netherlands, it will be very convenient to see what's going on in this Beethoven plan. So of the billions we're going to invest 450 million in the talent pipeline for the next 6 to 8 years. And after that, it will be a continuous investment of 80 million a year. So we are going to do a lot, but it would help if the European approach and the country or regional approach would get better and closely together. So then we can scale up and do the good things a lot faster than if we or do everything alone in our own region, or I think Europe can solve this. I think it should be a very good cooperation. So I think a lot of the recommendations are very true. Use what's already there, use what's going on in the countries, and make sure that's actually the recommendation number one. And a neutral ballot organization is also monitoring what's going on so things come better together.
Yeah, indeed, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Brilliant, Beatrice, on these insights. You know, in the next version of the blueprint, Beethoven will be quoted there then, right?
Yeah, it's very recent, so we didn't even edit in the former survey. I didn't even know it by then, but it's very new news.
Yeah, but you know, obviously with the skills working group continuing, this is information that's going to be relevant in there and will be picked up by the umbrella organization, indeed under recommendation 1, which we're going to come to in a minute. Before I pass on to the next, I'm going to go to you, Alfred. But before I do, I think Stefano from the EC had a hand up. Did I imagine that? Stefano, did you want to say something? Yes, or not. Stefano, did you want to? I can't hear you. Speak now. Maybe, I think you were muted. I still can't hear Stefano. Is it just me?
No, we cannot hear you, Stefano.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Stefano.
Maybe you can write in the chat.
He can't activate the mic. So
maybe
Stefano,
you can write it in the chat.
Indeed, maybe you can put that in the chat whilst Stefano is then putting his response together. Then I'm going to go to Alfred. I'm going to offer you the floor. I don't know whether, Stefano, you want to get out and come back in. You can try that as well. Alfred, good to have you with us. Thanks a lot for your time with us. We wanted to have you look at recommendation number 5, okay, which was the development of a cohesive strategy that unites universities. Obviously, this is where your grouping is from. And so just your thoughts on that, please. Thank you.
Yeah, first, let me remark that I represent here a new European community program, CHIPS of Europe. It has actually started now, 1st of June. We will have our kickoff in few days. And it's a project within a Digital Europe program with 14 partners, most of them universities, some companies, and associated partners. And the goal is to, the abbreviation is creating higher education industry programs for the semiconductor industry of Europe. So it fits very well to the programs which have been shown before. And so our work packages are actually part of the recommendation because the work packages is study program development, then a new kind of teaching in form of virtual labs, network with schools, and similar things. So from my point of view, the most important point is the starting point is actually the schools, because our target is to get more and better qualified people. But when we do not have more, then we have no chance to qualify them. And so we experience this at the university, that we have less than we need as STEM students. So the question is, how can we develop a cohesive strategy that we can first raise the number of students in this field, and then in the second step that we can work together to educate them. Yeah. So a part of our program is the study program development. Yeah, so this is where the university collaborate, and so a big part is exchange of students, then joint study programs, and then something like double degrees. Yeah, so this makes the study programs more attractive. So, but let me again stress the most important topic is to get to more students in the field, and and this is happening at the schools. We have to find some role model or so which is very visible, and we have to develop it together to attract the young people. And this maybe make it a little bit different than computer science or renewable energies, so which is specifically for semiconductors.
Thank you, Alfred, for that insight, and we'll be looking forward to hearing the developments of the project. We'd like to obviously keep in touch with you on this. But one of the things we wanted to try and do with the blueprint, this is a message for everyone, is that it was to be used, and I don't know if your project can do this, as a type of guideline. So you pick it up, and then if there are some best practices or case studies, anyone in any country could say, oh, do you know what, I want to do this. And we set out a plan already that the blueprint has this on a silver platter, that then the community can go out and pick this up. So the ProgeTiger example from Kai before, I want to do this in Italy. How do I go about to do it? And I want to implement it tomorrow. So we need to get to that level of elaboration, I think, to make this work and a success. So I think, Alfred, that's a good point that you're stating. You've got this in your house to work on. So we'll be really keen to see how that then evolves over time.
So we definitely, as part of our work packages, we have to develop coordinated study programs. And so we collect information, what is needed, what is content of the study courses, and then we develop them further. And this is then, of course, a blueprint also for others to participate or to make use of it.
Okay, and does anyone, thank you very much, Alfred. Anyone want to comment, add anything to this point at all? Anyone from our participants? I wanted to pick up a question that's coming in on our chat, but before I do that, why don't I then, oh no, we did number 5. Kai, I'm going to pass now over to you to look at recommendation 6 on the strengthening the collaborative efforts. So the whole part that maybe we're mentioning also here, but how governments and member states can come into this semiconductor ecosystem in a pragmatic way. From your experience, over to you, Kai.
Yeah. First of all, I really agree with Beatrice that Europe has to work together to sound stronger, because actually last week I was in LearnTech in Karlsruhe in Germany, and there really we had a panel discussion that said like digital education is something that Europe could be the front runner. However, since we are so fragmented and we are not collaborating on a very deep level, on a very practical issues, on a governmental level, then sometimes we don't sound as strong for the Asian countries, let's say. But yeah, I think it's very important that governments collaborate, especially because the governments are the ones who are creating the framework in education. However, what we see very often that it's not only the governments have to collaborate, but there has to be a systematic collaboration between governments and universities and schools, because this is where the magic will happen, when everyone is in the board, where everyone is in the same boat and working for the same goals. For example, in Estonia, we have a long-term educational strategy for the next 12 years. And one of the issues there is that we will have to diversify the learning opportunities that you have discussed here, and Alfred mentioned as well, that the learning has to be related to the needs of the labor market, to the skills that is really needed in today's society. And now we are really working on the skills, on the competences that is needed to survive in any type of working field. So I think this is definitely something that everyone could benefit, sharing the good practices that we have been implemented in our own countries, not only in Estonia, but other practices as well. So the more we have collaboration, coming together and working on particular issues, the stronger we'll be and we'll sound stronger as a Europe.
Perfect. Thanks, Kai. I know we have a timing issue, Christopher. Do I still have you for a few minutes that you can say a few words about recommendation 1, please? Let me pass the floor to you quickly.
Yeah, and maybe I can also start addressing the question in the chat of how the European Chip Skills Alliance may relate to the Alliance on Semiconductor Technology.
Indeed. If you tackle that, and I do also have a response from Stefano Zanna, who's unable to put the audio on, so I will reply on his behalf after you.
No, Silvana.
Oh, yeah, he's here. Great. we have Stefano. I'm so glad, and we have video. Great.
Yes, I've been changed the role in the meeting, so now I can connect and speak. Luckily.
Perfect.
No, the idea is quite simple. Of course, we have many bodies. We need to streamline the different roles and the different tasks and so on. Actually, what we will have as a working group in the Industrial Alliance is a working group focused on industry and companies. And also remember that this working group is the, let's say, official advocacy, body for the CHIPS Act, actually. So indeed, the CHIPS Act needs to collaborate with the Industrial Alliance, and this must be one of the body working together with the European Semiconductor Board. On the other side, you can say better than me, Christopher, the alliance launched by the project is indeed something more wider, can be much more inclusive, can be much more focused on the educational pipeline, also integrating the activity on the education and the e-platform that you've launched and so on. So I do believe we have to identify and clearly communicate to all the players the different roles of the body. Maybe also changing names. I mean, we are not strictly bind to this first name we had in the past. So if it helps clarifying the different roles, indeed, we will act like this to define everything in the future. Also, once we have indeed the working group of the alliance, we need to streamline together with the companies, with the associations, with the networks, with the university, academia, what we want to do and who is going to do what. Do you want to compliment, Christopher?
No, I mean, I guess, okay, in terms of recommendation 1, I think it just confirms that again. I think that, and Stefano and we had this discussion on exactly this question over the last weeks multiple times. And I think, we, from the European Chip Skills Alliance, we will look at engaging much more directly, for instance, with universities, whereas the working group of the Industrial Alliance is also has the mandate to advise the European Semiconductor Board, so the member states directly. So, and I think that's where we maybe also have to see how we can, maybe prioritize some of the recommendations for each of the alliances or groups as well. And that would be at least also my recommendation, at least somehow under recommendation 1. If we look at this, first of all, at the scale of the problem, but we also look at the spectrum of the activities and the spectrum of the recommendations we have, it's huge. So I think we should really prioritize on I don't know, 1 or 2 where we really can make a difference in maybe in the short, but also in the long term with the working group or with some of the activities, and that we really see also where the European added value is. I know this is a buzzword, but I think some of the activities, may be done differently on local level or best on local level, and not everything has to be streamlined and coordinated, I think. So I think it's a very first step. And I think, again, that's why I also see the role of the umbrella organization is trying to, streamline some of the activities and bring some of the projects, etc., together, but then also prioritize on what's really the most effective of the activities that we can do. And that's, I find, still very difficult. I mean, also there's a lot of best practices that we have, but assessing the actual effectiveness of these activities is often very anecdotal. So you have some, of course, activities that have been running in member states for a long time where we clearly say this works, but there are so many summer schools, and we're doing it again. But what is actually the impact of that? And that's, I think, maybe where we need to see how we can assess impact and then really prioritize. Because from my perspective, this problem goes far beyond the semiconductor sector or the chips industry. If we don't have enough kids interested in STEM today, we will have a problem as Europe, as a European society as a whole, because of the labor market overall, and not only in the semiconductor industry. And I mean, it's like, if you look at the study we're undertaking, you see the amount of people that are forecasted to retire and that will have to be replaced alone in the semiconductor industry. And that's, it's just one tech sector in Europe. And it's, I don't know, I think that overall we don't comprehend the magnitude of the problem that goes far beyond our sector and is really becoming a societal problem. Yeah.
Thanks, Christopher. Thank you, Stefano, for the injection and insight. Beatrice, you have a comment to make?
Yes. To add to this, I told you about the Beethoven project, which is ASML is one of the biggest partners in it. They actually asked in the Netherlands to our government to focus on STEM in general, not specifically on semiconductor programs. We hardly have them. To develop them, it will take a long time. Well, a lot of the things the industry needs are things that are already in other programs like electro technology or mechanics or physics, etc. So to have a broader it could be different in other countries, but I think it's a good idea to look at what is specific needed for companies in what country or areas, and from that bottom up, see what you have in general in Europe, so we don't do the wrong things in the wrong places. So that's what they came up with. I actually spoke to them today, so I thought it might be useful to add.
Thank you. Maybe just to wrap up on this, we have a question from Raphael. Thank you, Raphael. Hi, do you think that the talent gap is more critical for short cycle tertiary graduates, technicians, or bachelor's, master's graduates, engineers? Who would like to pick that up? Or does anyone have a comment? Think they would have an immediate response for Raphael? If not, we can...
If I can add to the survey we did in the Netherlands, for instance, ASML said, people always think we need the brightest persons who have PhDs, but we actually need college level students, bachelor or maybe professional masters, a lot more people who can actually make something, because we need better productivity. And so that's where they want to focus up for the plans in the Netherlands in the next 10 years.
Yeah, I would like to add to it, Silvana.
I was going to actually, I wasn't going to ping you. I didn't know whether you should, because I thought Bernie would have a good answer for this too. Thanks, Beatrice. Yes, Bernie, go.
I think we often forget the importance of the technicians, and as I said in my talk, 2/3 of any factory is technicians to keep the factory running 24/7, 365 days a year. So I would like to see a lot more help with technician training, particularly where in a country, for example, Germany, where the only real route is through apprenticeships. What does a greenfield do in that situation? When you think of the volume that's required, you can't send them all away, to either the US or Ireland. It's just not feasible. So we have to come up with different routes. We have to really boost the reskilling, upskilling opportunities in those places for greenfield sites.
And this is something that I think we can obviously underline in the Future Skills Working Group as well. And I'd also like to tap into what you said, Christopher, as a takeaway to today's webinar. It is the impact, what's happening, and then actually defining figures and numbers behind the use cases and best practices that have been listed in the blueprint. We're able then, as a follow-up, to actually say, as a result of this activity, this is what's happened. And I go back, obviously, to Kai's example of ProgeTiger, because that's, you know, obviously, apart from a fantastic statistic, but it's carved in black and white of how the efforts of ProgeTiger then came into force from a statistical point of view. Now, we're coming up to the hour. Actually, we've gone over, but I think we've done pretty well in getting everything in. So I'd like to thank all the speakers. I'd like to thank all the participants who've stayed on till the end. That's always an encouraging sign. It shows that whatever the content was put together has been stimulating enough for you to listen to. If you want to reach out to us via ALLPROS, then please do. We won't be going away. Please do read the blueprint. Any comments you have to it, we'd be happy to read that too. And you heard from the European Commission on the next phase then of taking the working group of skills plus the others that Pierre mentioned this morning, PFAS and supply chains and others in the pipeline. This will become a reality. I'd like to thank all of you. I'd like to thank or the ALLPROS consortium, and specifically the teams at Trust IT and IDC, who really put in loads of effort, Giorgio, Leonardo, and from Trust, Nicolò, Alexandra, Valeria, Diego. Thank you all, because as we said before, the reports aren't easy to put together, and it does take a lot of time and effort. Thank you very much, all of you. Till the next one, and have a lovely evening and rest of the afternoon. Take care, all of you. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
And yes, Alfred, the recordings will be available. All recordings and presentations will be available post-event. Thanks once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.